guys, hello everybody. Training Without Conflict podcast number 57. Before we get going, just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed or liked and shared the podcast, if it's of interest, make sure that you do so. You encourage me to do more of them. Now, today, really, I'm always say this, but there is no better way to say it. I'm super excited to have as my guest Johan Weckhuyzen from Belgium, and the introduction can take a very long time. First thing, for anybody that don't know the name or the name sounds familiar, the very well-known Belgian Malinois kennel Van de Duvetorre. He's the owner of the kennel. He is also the president and one of the founding members of the FMBB, the Belgian Shepherd World Organization. Of course, he has quite a few other very interesting things that he does in his life that I cannot wait to hear about. But Johan, it's, I don't know, I'm shaking. It's been for so long that we haven't had a chance to actually talk like in, like this way. And we know each other, just as we were talking earlier, like I don't think we even should say how long, because we're gonna be looking so old.
Yes,
but
that's true.
Thank you for coming. I know you have insanely busy schedule always, and I cannot wait to hear about everything. But where do we start? Because again, so many interesting things we have. I wouldn't even know how we met. It was probably 88 or 9 or somewhere way back. I think it was right around the time when Luc Van Stebruch was going out of the dogs, and he was splitting between Bertrand and you and a few other people. And I think somewhere around that time, it's long time ago.
Exactly. I think we met the first time in the World Championship in Finland when you competed with Nikita. De Duvetorre.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. That was a long time.
And yes, and I was there with my good friend Jos Kerkhoven, who competed with his Laekenois Quichotte on the Duvetorre.
Perfect name. So,
and I think that was the first time that we met.
Yes, and every time we got to get together, being tracking somewhere on the field and practicing, being whatever, having a drink, and I mean, just super interesting conversation all the time. Now, I know, but I also want to know a little bit more in depth about certain things, and definitely will be very interesting for everybody that's listening to my podcast. You, as far as I remember, I mean, probably there is a story before that, but the way I know that you really got into it was Campania and breeding Laekenois. Or is there something prior?
Well, I must say, when I graduated from university as a, let's say, school teacher for sport, what I never did. I never was in school. I just give private trainings or whatever, but not in school. But I have my university degree. And I bought myself a dog the day that I graduated, and it was an Old English Sheepdog. Because it was in 1984. And of course, because I know nothing about dogs, I say, I need to go to a club. So after a couple of trainings, they start to tell me about dog sport and competitions. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm a really sport guy. I say, okay, competition. I'm motivated. And so I started to do some obedience with the dog. And in 88, I competed for the first time in the Belgian Championship in obedience, Belgian obedience. And in 88 also, that's an important date, because January 88, I bought my first Belgian Shepherd. And like you mentioned already, it was a Laekenois. And his name was Max van Kriekebos. And I must say, it is in my heart, when I do something, I go for not 100%, I go for 200%. And so I meet people with Belgian Shepherds. So that's the reason I bought myself a Laekenois. And all the luck for me, the lady that was breeding the Laekenois, she also had the dogs from Luc, from the Duvetorre kennel at home with her. She took care of about, I don't remember exactly, but maybe 10, 15 dogs of Luc were in her place. And a lot of litters were born in her place. So that's also how I met Luc. But in that time when I met Luc, I was already in a club. I changed from an obedience club. I went to a Belgian ring club. And there I came in contact with Lucien Rivière, who was 17 times Belgian champion in ring sport. And there I started to do decoying, I started to train. And of course, when you're a sport guy and you compete, you want to win, you want to do good. And every time I went one step further and further. With my Laekenois in the start. And with Max, I can say, I don't remember the date, I think in 92, I was competing then already in Campagne. And in Campagne, I became champion with the Laekenois against the Malis and the Bouviers that were competing at that time. And with Lucien, so I did a good evolution. And at the same time, Luc came there with the breeding program. I started to know. So I bought my first Malinois, I think in 1990. And so, okay, then it goes quickly because you go and you do one step further and two steps further. And in very short time, I had 10, 15 dogs at home. So in 95, I started then professionally as a boarding kennel. And the boarding kennel, okay, was interesting to do with my wife, but that's not really my thing. Right. I went really in the dogs, in the sport, and with Luc, I met André Varlet, who is still my vice president, who is now recovering from a very bad accident he had in August last year. But I can say he's doing well now, so that's good. And from one came another, and so I came completely involved in the dogs. Professionally, it brought me with the boarding kennel. I came into the position that people start to ask me, hey, Johan, can you find us a dog? We need dogs for the army. We need dogs for this. We need dogs for that. So I came in this world from buying and selling dogs, adult dogs, trained dogs. We had to prepare those dogs for the clients, like all those things. So that went on till, I think, about 10 years ago. Because it was interesting to know that my first client was Joseph Russella in 1992. I still remember very well. And Joseph Russella was buying dogs for French Army, for Air Force. And he was at that time already full-time busy with explosive detection dogs in the army, and he did a lot of things. He was responsible when he met me for buying the dogs, training the dogs, and training the teams. And that became a very, very intense relationship, and beside the sport, of course. And with Joseph, he changed from army to private companies in the year 2000, where he became responsible for the airport in Paris, for all the detection dogs, for explosive detection dogs, and he had 60 teams under him. After 6 years, he said, hey, Johan, 6 or 8 years, he said, Johan, I start to get bored because I'm not working for myself, and I want to start up a company. And so I joined him in the company in France, and we formed the company named K9 Detection Sino. And that was very, very, very intense, let's say like that. So I decided, and that brought good money, I must say like this. And so at that time, I decided to go to start this same project in Belgium. But in Belgium, there was nothing yet. There was no explosive dogs privately, but with the law, the European law that was there, the possibility was present. So in 2011, I started with a new company in detection dogs, Canine Detection Belgium. And what I'm still doing now, about 6 years ago, I made up a new training center, Canine Detection Training, because we need it for all the dogs that we train, that we use on the airport in Brussels and the airport in Ostende. And this is a bit the professional way how my career went. In 92, also the same year, with André Varlet, André, he started by organizing a first competition for Belgian Shepherds, like a European championship in Germany. And there it was at that time Volker Riedel who was organizing together with Peter Engel from DMC. And so André asked me, hey, Johan, can you check up if you can have an IGP team to compete? I say, oh, IGP. I said, no, nothing about IGP. I'm a ring guy. Yeah. So I say, okay, I take a look and I will talk, because most of the guys in the IGP at that time with Malinois, they were the Flemish guys. So it was difficult for André and Luc, who are French speaking, to have the contact. So they say, hey, Johan, you do the translations.
And all of that. Me talking with Luc, this was very complicated.
Yes. And that's the first competition we did was in Germany. And we did IGP and Monduring. And 3 years later, then I was unlucky, I must say. Unlucky, by the way of speaking. Because every time they did a meeting, I was the only guy who spoke French, who spoke Flemish, who spoke German. And I speak 4 languages.
So the beauty of being born in Belgium.
Yeah. So as I had to translate all the time, everybody started to phone me and ask me all the questions. And I got really involved in, let's say, in what became FMBB.
The idea, everything, that's the time when everything got planted.
Yes, exactly. And 3 years later, we organized Inbreeding, where I still have my office here, the first World Championship, because then team from America was there. And
I still have my T-shirt from the championship.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It was one of the first. I mean, it was for me and for everybody. It was a very important event. It was the first World Championship, as you said, you know, and it was in Belgium, and it was a important event. Like really, it made the beginning of something great, you know.
Yes, exactly, because every time on these competitions, that's when we started to discuss with all the team leaders how we do next year. And I got more and more involved, and we said, okay, we'll decide. And I must say there is for sure André who take really the lead in the planning and saying, hey, we should do that and that. And I was a little bit the executor from all the plans that André had. And so we were growing, and then with all the talks we have all around, we decided in 2003 to organize the first time in the Haan the multiple championship with all 5 disciplines. And everybody said, hey, Johan, you're crazy. Yes, I know, I'm crazy. Like I said at the start, when I go for something, I go for 200%. And so that was, let's say, quite a good success. And
I remember the Haan also. I mean, like my memory is not, like I don't remember names, for example. I don't remember certain things, but then I remember strange things. Like I remember pretty much to little details the Monduring setup in the Haan, because it was such a beautiful, the place where it was, and the idea with the kind of like the beach team, if you remember, it was just so cool.
exactly. And another thing we also did in the hand when we did the parade with all the teams up in front, we had a guy from France with a Laekenois and some sheep. And that was also the first time that we tried to introduce the sheep herding in and I still have those pictures, of course. So that was also a thing that we planned. And the next years after the Han, okay, we had some difficulties to find the countries that wanted to organize because they were, I must say, they were afraid about.
It was scary. This is a scary commitment.
How big it was.
Even today, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
It's a.
Yes, that's true. But
so
a good organization, then you can collect.
So what happened after the Han? Where did it go?
After the Han, I know we went to Slovenia, and I remember very well, like in Slovenia, we also did the monitoring.
Yeah.
Then I started from home with my van and my trailer behind, with everything for the monitoring, because in Slovenia they had no monitoring.
Yes.
And I can say I did that for several years. That on every competition I came, I put up the fields with some of my friends, of course. I cannot do it alone. But like that, we could introduce the sport. And okay, when we see that the last championship before we had Corona, it was in Czechia. There we had 850 dogs competing in all the different disciplines that we had, because we started with 5, but now we are on 10 already, 10 different competitions. And already for this year, I can say for the first time we split up the World Championship, because we have already a first World Championship in Belgium in end of April for the search and rescue dogs.
Okay.
Because Greece already told us, because, okay, maybe you know, normally it should be in Portugal this year.
Yes.
But last summer when we asked, hey, but you didn't sign the contract yet. Yeah, but we don't sign the contract. Then we were blocked. Okay. And we could find Greece that organized 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, we had now Italy, Romania, and before Romania, it was also in Greece. So Greece said they put out the helping hands, and but they could not do the search and rescue and not the sheep herding. So we say, okay, no problem. We organize it on a different date, and now we have, because we had nobody, so my club in Belgium, we decided, okay, we do the search and rescue. And I must say, for me, that is a very, very important step that we do, because the search and rescue, for me, for the future, is a very important discipline. Because if we check on the sport and all the difficulties we have with animal welfare.
So with search and rescue, there is, I mean, as far as I know, like there are different competitions with their own little rules. Like what kind of is a world search and rescue organization, and what rules would they have for championship for this?
Okay, well, I must say the search and rescue is already organized quite some years by FCI and by IRO, which is not FCI association, but they work a lot together. So FCI and IRO, they accept the judges from the other association. So and you can compete in both of the competitions.
Okay,
so
makes sense.
The rules and like with all the competitions we do, our standard rules are FCI rules. We have signed a contract with FCI that we follow the rules and that we take FCI judges and things like that. But we are not a real FCI member. We are recognized. We have a cooperation contracts, let's say like that.
Which is not a bad thing, I think, you know?
No, I think it's a good thing, because like this, I always say, you don't have to invent the warm water. If something is there, and you can use it, you can better use than say, hey, I will make up something completely new, and then the rules, they are a little bit different, and
and also in some ways you have much more control of the organization than being answering to FCI for every little thing, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Let's go back to, we'll come to FMBB, but let's go back to history a little bit.
Okay.
Because you're one of the very few people that I personally know that had the passion with the Laekenois and the understanding of the dogs at the time. And then they, unfortunately, just there is, as far as I remember and know right now, there are like few, maybe 3 kennels that are trying something to do with recognizing the temperament and character, but it's pretty much, even in the show circles, they are becoming not so common to the point that I remember, again, like early 90s, people are, you walk a Malinois on the street and they're like, what is this? So you had to tell people like 20 minutes of explanation if you really wanted to tell them what the type of dog you have. It seems today that when people see Laekenois, that's kind of how they are. They're like, well, what is this? What kind of terrier, or what is that dog? Like, they're very rare right now. My question, because again, you have the training experience and you worked with both Mallis and Laekenois. What would you say the interesting differences and commonalities between the two, if you compare? What did you like you personally?
Well, how I started with Laekenois is because in my club in Leke, I had a good friend, Johan, also Johan, and he was competing in obedience with a Laekenois female. And in the club, he was also in the club in Leke. In the club, he was also training some bite work because he wanted to do the CQN. The CQN is like a little Belgium ring program, but for dogs that are doing shows and that want to have a Belgium championship title. That's like a test they have to do.
Yeah.
So I said at that time, oh, everybody has like a Malinois, and I saw this Laekenois and with the curly hair, and in that time I also had a little bit curly hair, but that's a long time ago. And
now we wear glasses.
Yes. And no, but I liked the dog a lot, and he was working very well. And so I said, hey, Johan, I had my old English sheepdog, and at that moment, my girlfriend, with who I was at that moment, she said, no second dog and this and that. And so one day she decided to split up and leave. So the next day I was calling for a dog. And I say, hey, if she come back, it's too late. Then I have my dog. But okay, she didn't come back. Okay, but that's history.
Right.
But Johan said, hey, but the breeder where I bought, with who I work together, they have a litter right now, and we can go. And at that time, I didn't know anything about the shepherds, because that will be the first one that I buy. And but I'm always trying to be informed before I do something. And so I checked a bit on the Laekenois and this and pedigrees, and I needed to understand a little bit. And when we went there, the lady, Evelyn, it was the kennel van Kriekebos, with Evelyn, who was the breeder. And so Evelyn, she explained me everything, and she showed me the pedigrees. And in Belgium, we have the white pedigrees and we have the rose pedigrees.
Yeah.
And the rose pedigrees.
You can explain a little bit, for everybody.
And the white pedigrees, there's a full pedigree,
very legit,
full generations
official,
of yes,
recognized.
Yes. And in Belgium, you can, if your dog has no pedigree, you can by show get a rose pedigree, but then only the name of the dog that did the show is mentioned, and that's an annex in the stud book. And so when I checked the puppies, they would have a rose pedigree. I say, hey, but this, how can I do? How can I compete? And then she explained me, yes, but Johan, you know, the mother of your Laekenois, the one that I bought in Max, the mother of that, she is a mixed breed between a Malinois and a Laekenois. So at that moment, I was worried. I said, holy shit, no, I want a purebred dog. But Johan, on the way back home, he said, no, it's 400% sure, it's official, and this and that. And so then I decided anyway to take a Laekenois. But the Laekenois, the mother was mixed from Malinois and Laekenois. And later on, when I started to study well in pedigrees, I could see that also the mother of the mother, I'm pretty sure that also there was Malinois in behind. I cannot find it back on the pedigree, but that's one of the problems in the early years.
That's
that the pedigrees, they were not always
the interesting story of the Malinois and the Belgian Shepherds. That's a very interesting for everybody. Those times were very interesting, good times.
Yes. And also, if you go back in history and you go back to the first dogs that were registered in the start of the 1900s, because the first Malinois in the Belgium stud book was in 1903, 1902, 1903, something like that. I think the name was Vos de Polders. Okay, but if you check on the origins, the Malinois, the start of the Malinois and the start of the Laekenois, they come out of the same parents. They have the same, not the same parents really, but the same dogs are in both pedigrees.
Yeah.
So this brings that sometimes in breeding of Malinois, sometimes you get Malinois with like a little rough coat, a stripe of rough coat on the back. And this is the origins of the Laekenois that is now more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But we still see it. And so when they did this intervariation, where my Max was coming out of, also there, the dog that they used, he had already given Malinois with such a rough coat on the back.
Of course.
And so we didn't lose so much on the coat by doing, I didn't do it, it was Evelyn who did it at that time. So the coat of this second generation was already perfect Laekenois. And so if we talk now, when you say, okay, the Laekenois and the Malinois, all depends on the bloodlines that you use.
Where they come, right.
And if we see, like we mentioned in the start, my friend Jos with Quichotte, okay, he competed with the best Malinois, and he could get sometimes better points than the best Malinois.
Oh, if he was, trained how we know how to train today, he was a strong dog.
Yes, exactly.
He was a strong dog. Like I remember him biting. It was always with intention. It's like, I'm not playing here.
No, that's true. And it's a funny story, but the first time that Jos went for his IPO1, at that time it was IPO, what is now IGP.
Right.
But so the first time, just to help him, I said, okay, Jos, I have also one. I will train a little bit IGP, and I go with you to support you. Even I was a ring guy, but I did it. And so we went both with one Laekenois to a competition in a Doberman club. And they see us coming. They say, hey, poodles are not welcome here on competitions like this. Yeah, okay. We do our best. After the competition, because Jos, he did the bite work. And if I remember well, he left the field with 99 in bite work. Everybody was like, oh, how did this dog do that?
Yeah.
And later on, in his career, lots of time on world championships, the helpers that did the bite work, they come and see me and they say, "Hey, fuck, Johan, the hardest bite we had on our arm, it was the Laekenois. How did you do that? How did you do that?" So it was very funny. But I must say, Kishot, he was later on very important in my breeding because he gave very social dogs, what is sometimes a problem in the Laekenois. And I can recognize quite fast the dogs out of this origin. And Kishot was used quite a lot. And we see people that use him on beauty lines and start to, because most of the Laekenois, I say beauty lines, when I started with Max, there was not so much working with the Laekenois.
Right.
It was because he was very rare. But, and also one of the nice things I had, one day we competed in the Holland Championship of the club, and all the big Malinois handlers from that time, they were participating, right? Like Techlar, like Van Rossum, Knop, all the big ones that came to the World Championships. And they didn't know so well Jos, and I didn't know so well Kishot. And Kishot, he was lucky to do the last dog bite work. So everybody was standing there because bite work, you know how it is. When dogs biting in IGP, everybody is watching. Dogs do the obedience. But okay, you see a little bit public, because then it's the time to go and drink something.
Yes.
But everybody was there standing. And I remember still, because now still my hair on my arms is starting to raise. The judge, he started his command when he finished the thing. Well, he said, when I look now, it's a shame I have to wait to the last dog to see a dog who is really biting. So all the other ones were like, oh, and I was like, holy shit, what's this? And also there, he stepped out with 99 points in the bite work. And that's for a Laekenois. So those are really extremely nice memories. And that is
so do you, I don't know when was possible to collect and freeze semen, but I don't know when did that started. I know did you miss that opportunity with Kishot? Or
I must say, I already in that time I did some frozen semen, and I still have. I have semen from Max, my Laekenois.
Yeah.
I have semen from Kishot. Yeah. And I have semen from one of my famous Malinois.
Yeah, I know, Stunt. I'm trying to talk to you here and there. Every once in a while, I keep talking about this one. You know what happened? I'll tell you a really kind of unfortunate story with Turcodos, and I don't think we've talked about this one. Very, like, I mean, he was super special dog. No, like. And we can go into the story, but the bottom line is he was the Duvetorre dog. And eventually you contacted me because I really liked him. You knew that I like him, and it was just a perfect opportunity to buy him. So I did, and I collected him a lot of times. Like I collected him. I'm like, I'm gonna have frozen semen from this dog until I'm done breeding in my life. But I made a very big mistake. I put all the semen into one bank in one hospital.
Okay.
And what happened, and I don't know if it's because of Florida with the hurricanes, electricity, whatever happened in the clinic, at one time, I tried to breed and it's not happening. I try another one. I try 4 different females. And it's not happening. But before, like we already used them, we used frozen semen like for friends that wanted to breed to him. So it was there and it was very strong. But something happened in the clinic and the semen got destroyed. And it was very, very heartbreaking because even though he was dead already, in my head, I had him, you know? And for me, he really died the moment I realized that the semen is gone finally. And
Yeah.
it was, I get goosebumps too. It's just one of these sad moments, you know? So like right now, with every dog, and this is for anybody that's listening, advice, if you ever collect semen, split it in two different places so you know that you have it, because I was always thinking, oh, I have enough. I had like so many straws for so many breedings, all gone, you know, very, very sad. But that's amazing that you do have the from the Laekenois. That's very important. How did the, I mean, how even the name, what is the name? How did the name come, the Van de Duvetorre?
How did the name come?
Yeah.
Well, very stupid. Very, very stupid. Because I'm not so strong in names, because some of the guys that buy a puppy from me say, hey, Johan, where did you pick up this name? Where did you pick up this name? So it was for the litter of Quixote, because I must say, I was not really interested in start breeding. So I had a couple of litters with Max, with my Laekenois. But that was on the kennel name of Kriekebos or from my friend Johan on Van Toogkwartier. That were the two kennels. I said, yeah, but that on your name, if it's female from you, it's on your kennel name. It's female from you, it's on your kennel name. So, and one day, so I do the breeding for Quixote. And so I called to Evelyn and said, hey, Evelyn, my female daughter from Max, she had the puppies and I mated him with this male. Can you ask for the pedigrees? And she said to me, hey, Johan, the male you used, I don't like him. I don't ask pedigrees for this one. I said, what I do now? Oh no, it's your problem. Oh, okay. So then I had to ask Saint-Hubert very quickly a kennel name, because without kennel name, it's nothing.
Yes, yes.
And if you ask a kennel name at that time, I don't know how it is now, but at that time we had to give 10 names. Yes. So I was like looking in the history and some historical names, say, oh, maybe that. And so the last one was over. Oh, shit, what else can I put? What else can I put? And I'm from Newport, where we organized also a third time, the World Championship in 2012. I'm from Newport, and there is an old tower from the 13th century. And the name in our language is Duvetorre.
Okay.
I said, oh, like I'm from Newport, I will call him, I will say the last one for the Duvetorre. It's the 10, they will never take it. Okay. So
good one.
That's the history of my kennel name.
That's
and I must say, the Duvetorre, it's how you say, it's the language that we really speak in Newport, and that's the real dialect. And it comes from the duivel, and the duivel with L is the devil, so it's the devil's tower. And I have ancient pictures from the First World War, when normally it's the St. Laurentius Tower, when he was destroyed by the Germans. And that was not the first time that the tower was destroyed. Every war where Newport was involved, they destroyed the tower. So the local people said, hey, this is the work of the devil. We cannot have such a nice tower, so it's the devil's tower, because he is doing all these things.
That time. Yeah.
And that's how we call it. And in the dialect, they started to cut the L like duve, but if you take a pigeon in our language, it's a duif. And more pigeons, it's duiven. So a lot of people think it's the pigeon's tower. No, it's not the pigeon, it's the devil's tower.
That's a good, actually, that I like the name like this. Makes sense, because you picked something local. Like, I mean, it's the same with me with Vitosha, you know, it's really
Yeah.
just the mountain that I grow up near
Yes.
Sofia, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and eventually what is strange with these names, eventually it just becomes the name of your kennel. It's not
Yes.
in your head, it's no more associated. Like you
No,
never
no,
think of it the way we just
no,
described it, right?
That's true. And what is interesting also is that later on, because you know I'm a collector, everything I can see, pictures from Belgian shepherds or books or whatever, I try to buy them or bronze statues, whatever. When I see something from Belgian shepherds, I will not let it go, right? Because here in my office we have a little office for the FMBB, and there I have lots of books. I have lots of statues. I have paintings. Everything that we can get our hands on, we buy it.
Wow.
And by searching like this, I collected some cards, some old pictures from Newport, from the Devil's Tower. And I had one card where I say, hey, this is just like a Malinois on the picture. But it's very small, but you can really see the type. And I'm 100% sure it's a Malinois. And then later on, my father, who was doing always, you know, the genetics of people, starting to fill in the family tree, like we say. And he collected things. And then he collected some pictures from my great-grandfather with a Malinois. And then I could find out that he was in the years 20, in 1920, 1930, he was a member of the Newport Dog Sport Club, doing ring sport.
Wow.
So that was for me a big surprise, because me, let's say, nearly 100 years later, I see that my great-grandfather had the same hobby as I had.
Crazy, huh? That's
yes.
crazy.
For me, that's also very, very crazy.
You know, I mean, if you have this kind of collection, you should get some young kids to make like PDF files and preserve everything, and maybe even have a section on the FMBB website or something about, like, I mean, the history is very interesting. And as far as I know, you know, like, was it in Breden or where was it? There was a little exposition. It was, I think, Jean-Marie Van Boestel.
Yes, exactly. It was in the Han.
Or in the Han, right?
In the Han, we did an exposition like that.
It was beautiful. Like, for people that appreciate the breed, it was very learning. Like you really understand that Belgian Shepherds have just as much culture and history as any other breed, you know?
Yes. I must say, Jean-Marie, I had very, very good contacts with him, because we had same interests, right? About the history and everything. And Jean-Marie, he died a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But now his daughter is still keeping on all the collections of things that he has, and she still sells the books that he has.
Yes.
And we will. I already talked about it, and we will try to put something on our website to promote those things, because Jean-Marie wrote very interesting books about history.
Yes, I think these are very, I mean, for anybody that starts, or even people that have been with the breed for a while, when you look around, there is not much information, or people don't know where to find the information.
Yeah.
And this can be very, very, because it's such an interesting story. How did it all start with the Malis? Was it, yeah, I don't want to even mention names. I just want to hear how did you got stuck with the Malis and the breeding, and which dogs came to like play the important role for you?
Well, like I said, when I started with my Laekenois in the club in Leke with Lucia, who teach me everything about the training, how it was done at that moment, because, like I mentioned at the start, I have a university degree on how to train people
Yes,
for different kind of sports.
The psychology is there.
Yeah, and so Lucien, he trained me. I was his decoy for quite a long time, and at that moment he was competing with Gaillard du Boscail, who was 3 times Belgian champion in the different categories in the ring sport. And in our club, we had Lut, who was a veterinarian, and she owned a dog from Duvetorre, GV2 on the Bibber daughter. And Lut decided to do a mating with Gaillard de Boscail. And as everybody, I was there with my with my Laekenois, and said, yeah, but maybe I take a little Malinois just for fun and to train, and and so I bought Pita from Lut, and
Pita,
because
Pita was the mother of Stone.
Yes, exactly.
And it was what, Elgos and Pita?
Elgos Pita, yeah. Yes, exactly. And so with Pita, we did a few little competitions in ring sport. But then she entered in my. I started to breed with her.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I started to know Luc very well because I met him quite a lot with Evelyn, with my Laekenois, or when we go on ring sport with Lucien. We went for training in Doornik. But I was always with Lucien, always. I was always so. Luc also said, yeah, you should come to my club. And no, I have my, but all my training, let's say, it's Lucien who orientated me. And Luc, he orientated me in the breeding. Because when I had my female, I said, look, yeah, you should use Elgos. So, okay. I used Elgos 4 times. I did 4 times the same combination. And then I started to become very, very good friend with Luc, because through Luc and André Varley, I started to work as freelance for Royal Canin, where I had to visit the clubs and
I
go
remember
all around.
Those times. Yeah, I remember those times.
And so when we went with Luc to an exposition, we always shared the hotel room. We were always together. And Luc, he was really, really, really good friend. And Luc, he teach me everything. He teach me all the lines where to take care of, what you could expect.
Oh my God, he was so cool when, like, I remember the same stuff. Like I would go to his place and it's just me, and my French is pretty much zero, and we didn't have the phones to translate. But then he would open the freaking big book, and then we would start writing the pedigrees and explaining. And it's like, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was very special times, you know?
Yes.
In fact, you know, he made a couple of breedings very recently, and I got one female from him. I don't know if he was in a hospital. He had some very serious health problems just last year sometime, but I don't know what happened. I haven't checked in a while.
Well, let's say it's now a couple of years. It's from before Corona. I didn't see Luc anymore.
Yeah.
So just before or just after Corona, we had still a nice meal together with Paula. You know Paula from Switzerland.
Yes.
Who is always also breeding with on the Duvetorre lines.
That's how I got Nikita. She brought they sold Nikita to somebody in Switzerland. I can't remember who, was a high-level competitor, but they didn't like her white feet.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. And that's how she came to me. And I remember it was inbred, and she was in heat. And yeah, at that time, I think Bertrand, Nicky and Bertrand, the Joe farm, they already had Elgos. So she was in heat. I was the last dog to compete. And right after, I tried to make a breeding with Elgos, and I was so excited for this breeding, but it didn't take, you know.
Okay.
So I besides, yeah, I had what was the name of the people, the Hancheshuk breeders?
Misley.
Yeah.
Johnny Misley. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got a little bit of Elgos eventually, and then from Turkudos, but much further back on Turkudos. So going back to Luke, and Luke is the basically the Dioputua kennel. If you anybody that looks in their pedigrees, if you're with the Malinois, eventually at least one of the dogs in your pedigree will go back to this.
Oh, yeah, one. Okay.
At least, right?
Yeah.
But for him, it's a very interesting story also because of Bieber and GV2, and then there was Nelton, and there was Elgos, and tell me a little bit of these stories, because it will be very interesting for everybody.
Okay, so look, I don't know in exactly what year he started to breed, but when he started to breed, he was breeding mostly on the lines of Flap,
Yeah.
with what's the name now?
Cartouche.
Oh. No. Cartouche is different. That was the second wave of the Luke's breeding. But the first wave, it was the Flap line with the famous French guy. I'm bad in names. I'm very bad in names.
Like me. Maybe it will come.
Yeah, it will come. So he started breeding that, and he was not so happy with that. And so in the early 80s, then he started to be to see some dogs in NVBK, and he started to know Mark de Velde. And Mark de Velde, he owned Gibibber and Cartouche. And then he started to use these dogs. And GV2 and Bibber, they have the same father. They are both out of Cartouche, but a different mother. Where GV2 is then second time on the line of Arad, who is behind Cartouche.
Yes.
And so he started on that, and there he started to have his real good and strong dogs. And then the third wave was after he started to use Elgos. So that's with the three waves that I can say we've looked that we can see, and that is very interesting how we did it. And he used other lines where he said, "Hey, Johan, stay away from that because you see this and this and these problems." And I must say, in all the years now, we are nearly 30 years after the 85. We are 25, so it's 40 years.
Yes.
And those things that Luke told me and teach me about the bloodlines, I still can see that. And people say, yeah, but that's not possible. But the traces, sometimes the look of the dogs.
Yes,
hey,
for
you
sure.
can say, hey, they go back on that, they go back on that. And if you see the look, it goes also with the temperament and the character, because everything is genetic.
Yes.
And if you see the let's say in the 80s, the French dogs, they were quite small, and they were all let's name it, the Loup de Mutins. They were small dogs. The males, they were size of a very small female in the Duvetorre lines. So that is, we can still see things that you say, hey, but this is typical French line, this is typical this line, this is typical NVBK line, out of the look. The look gives you already the information about the bloodline, and if you know what characteristics the bloodline is giving, you can have a good probability that The puppies will be all like the father or like the mother, but okay, if you do some line breeding, you know what you do and you can know what you can expect. If you do completely out crosses, you know nothing. You know nothing.
Yes.
That's one of the big things in the breeding, and everybody say, yeah, but inbreeding and line breeding, but without, I tell you, they ask me, they show me pedigrees, they say, Johan, what do you think? What can we get?
Okay. Right, it's
You
throwing
can
a
get,
dice in Las Vegas.
If I see the pedigree, I can see 25 different males with no connections. Say, yeah, it can be anything. If you see, let's say, like Luke Brett with Bibber on GV2 or the other way around, hey, you know, hey, there's cartoons, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The probability that you will get something like this is, of course, much bigger.
And eventually you have to be careful how thin, how many times you go, but to some extent, as you say, you can be almost certain that you know what's coming out.
Yes, but that is why also things that Luke teach me, and then with the research that I did, there were very, very interesting articles written about inbreeding in the 50s by Mr. Verbank, who was a real Belgian Shepherd guy who had a really high standard in how he could write things about the Belgian Shepherd. And Mr. Verbank was a very important guy in the history of the Belgian Shepherds. And now I hear everybody say, yeah, but inbreeding...
I only remember a black and white picture of him with a cigar or something.
Yes, exactly. He was from Ghent, originally.
But Luke had a in a way, very simple recipe for breeding, but he understands the types.
Yes.
As you said, like you see the type of the dog and you kind of know what the temperament and what the endurance and agility and everything you can kind of...
Yes.
And then to keep the balance and not to lose it in your breeding program. That's the skill of a breeder.
Yes. Because I know there is a lot of things said now lately about this inbreeding. And I say inbreeding, okay, inbreeding, that's a father on his daughter or a son with his mother or brother and sister, that's inbreeding. All the rest is said line breeding. If you take nieces or grandfathers, then you go on line breeding. But in the inbreeding, really inbreeding, it has been done quite a lot in the Belgian Shepherd in all history. If we check on the start, because the Belgian history, the history of the Belgian Shepherd, we have two important males that started the breed. That was Chop and the Wet. Those are the two most important dogs. And Chop and the Wet, if you see the pedigrees from that time, wow, I never breed like they did.
But the pool was small, right?
Yes.
And you had the special dogs that you really wanted to,
And after this start where it was a lot inbreeding, I must say, in the whole history, we can find back dogs that were important, but that were issues of 2-3 generations of really strong inbreeding. And despite all the inbreeding that has been done with the Belgian Shepherds, we can say we have quite a healthy breed.
Yes.
And it's not because it's like that you don't have, you have to take care, you have to know and understand what you do. Because the inbreeding, if people talk about it, they say it's bad, because it will accentuate the problems that the dogs have.
Yes.
Yeah, but which stupid guy will do inbreeding with dogs with problems? That's my question.
Yeah, and even more today, we have so much better understanding of, like, you can run a bunch of genetic tests and you can see a lot of health problems that maybe let's say there is, I don't know, epilepsy or skin allergy or whatever, and then it gets like, okay, well, do I really want to take a chance? But today, when you have all the opportunities to do the health checks, line breeding, inbreeding, it becomes even more interesting, because you can avoid a lot of the problems that we took bigger risk back then, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Because I can say with Stoned, I did some really inbreedings. I did 3 or 4 times. I made it stone on one of his daughters, but different daughters, I must say.
Yeah.
I got dogs. Wow. Hey, you could see, you put them up, and if you do an inbreeding like that, then you can see also the value of your male.
Right.
Because if you do an inbreeding, a male on his daughter, and the puppies are, let's say, shit, well, you put your male at the garbage.
Yes.
If you have there the product that you say, holy shit, this is 100% the father's side that we see, that is also the father of the mother, well, then you know that your dog will be of any interest in the breed, because
Correct.
you will see the qualities of this dog. And that you can only verify, in my knowledge, by doing this inbreeding. And when we did that with Stone, well, we saw he was really giving what we wanted. And like in Germany, Stone, he did only 2 matings in Germany, but one of the matings was the litter of Casper Futtermoor, that our friend from Futtermoor, help me, Knut. Knut Voog said, hey, Johan, I really want to do mating with Stone with my female Aika, who was several times on the podium in IGP.
Yes.
Because I want to have a little bit more strong dogs, and I want to, well, if we see the litter of Casper, wow, hey, you check all the pictures and you put a picture of Stone, there are copies, and there is no inbreeding. And then you see Casper, what he bred. We have Fritz von Brunbeker's land. Shit, you put the picture of Stone next to it, it's Stone. And now we start to see children of Fritz, and we still see the same thing, So there we can say, this is a dog that is really tracing.
Yes.
That really giving his qualities, because from the litter of Casper, the first year they competed, they were super, super happy. They were like, wow, now we have it. But then I must say, what I saw, the way they trained their dogs in Germany, that's not the type of training that those dogs needed.
Handle,
because after 1 year, out, they were not out anymore. They had disqualified. They were disqualified for the biting, because no more out, because too strong. Because too much used to the, let's say, a little bit easier dogs that have an out, and that you have to support all the time, where you support the ones that we had. If you supported too much Turcodos,
I tell you, I can tell you story personal of whatever. It was led to care. It was when Kenny won the FMBB. The 3 hours, literally 3 hours before we go to the protection, I'm like, he hasn't done any bite work in few days. He's gonna lose his mind. Let's just give him a little, just to warm him up. Kenny out, nothing. Kenny, and I mean, I'm like right here. I mean, I'm looking at him, out, and he's like this. Oh.
I know.
And luckily, thank God, I decided to do this right before, because that's the type of dog we were discussing.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not in panic. It's not in. It's just it's a feel-good dominance. It's a different. You cannot, like, you try to really go against that the wrong way.
No,
it's not gonna work.
No. But that we had also with Stone. If I'm pretty sure if we could train those dogs with the techniques we have now from dog training, wow,
it would be very interesting.
Ooh, I'm 100% sure, because I know that when Mario trained with Stone, he was really nice. He was, I would say, nearly same as he did with Jagos. He had an obedience very nice.
Yes, yes.
Till one day that Mario said, now, I think he didn't have enough attention for me. And maybe he was a little bit nervous, Mario. So he
you always try to get more points and then you take a chance.
And he said, now you will up, I will force you to do. And since then his obedience was over. Since then he was doing the obedience, but not so intense, not so attentive anymore as he did before. And I know that from Elgos they said the same thing, when people said, yeah, but we don't like Elgos because he's so slow in obedience, he's this, he's that. Yeah, but for those dogs, that's the type of training. If you do the motivation type of training with those dogs, wow, then you have
I still have videos of Turkudos after he come, and but there was no pressure, so I was just playing with obedience with him, and he just opened up and just loved it, just loved it. Tell me something, because from kind of when we talk on emails and stuff, you go to some of the like Dubai and Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, and you say that you do some lectures on the breed and stuff. Give me something. This is interesting. What do you do?
Well, I've done a few. When people ask me, then I give like a little seminar. It's not a seminar. Maybe 2-3 hours. It depends on how many questions are coming.
Yeah.
But I make up a little PowerPoint with the history of the Belgian Shepherd.
Very cool.
And then I start from the start. What are we looking for? How can we achieve what we are looking for? How did the breeders do everything? How were the combinations made? And I think I did it now 2 or 3 times, and people loved it a lot.
It must be very interesting. Like I know I would be interested. That's why I'm like, what is he talking about? I want to see it.
But I need really, how much time it took before I could accept or speech today. But I need time to make it a real professional PowerPoint, and then I can go everywhere. Now it's a PowerPoint made by myself, like a real amateur, because I'm not a computer guy.
But that's why I'm telling you, there are some young kids that are already interested in the breed that would love to help you. If you make some announcement, you will have some really, really brilliant young kids that will make incredible work with this stuff, just because they will be excited, and because they live in this age, they know how to do this. We're learning. It's hard for us, the young ones are resilient with how, I mean, even with the AI now and everything, they're so good, how like the detection, I mean, thinking of back in early 90s and today, where did it change? It changed like quite a few times, but what is different today, you think, with detection training than how it was back in the early times?
It's completely different. It's completely different. I must say, how should I say? I started in the Belgium Ring, in the Obedience Club, then Belgium Ring Club, where at that time in the 80s, it was quite common. The training were done mostly by force. We say, and the dog do, and he has no choice. That was the way how it was trained. But I must say, with my my studies, my university studies, being a teacher, a trainer for people, I said, hey, there should be other different ways how it can be done. And so in 1992, I met a guy in the club of Mario with Julien, and I met Geert de Bolster. And Geert, he was then busy already in dog sports with clicker training. And he was talking on prior and this, and he explained everything.
Yeah,
and
those were the times when it became interesting.
Yes. And so I was really fun. I followed immediately some courses with them because I said, yeah, but this is more the way how I think things should be done. Because or work only with punishment, that's not really in my style. And also I have 2 children. I never punished my children, and I can say they are raised perfectly. I'm super happy. And we see now with the last dogs that we do, we always do it without any punishment. I don't say that you never need punishment. That's something else. But the problem is, you talk 99% of the time about how you can train with a reward, or taking away a reward, and you talk 1% about giving or taking away a punishment. It's the 1% that 99% of the people will keep in mind as most important. So when I teach, I never talk about the punishment. And I will only talk about the punishment when it's really needed. And when you do the things correctly, it's very rare you need the punishments. That's my opinion now.
And when you need it, it's less and it's meaningful.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so when we started with that, it was quite funny because I was invited in Finland to give a seminar with Tarmo Antila, who was breeding Tervurens, and
was
Harry
he the
Grön,
guy with the curly hair, right?
That's Zeppo.
That's Zeppo. Yeah. Okay.
That's Zeppo. Yeah. But he was there also on the seminar that I did. But it was quite funny because Tarmo was there, who had a sister of a later litter of Turcodos. And so now, I must say, I see quite a lot of Tervurens with real good quality. But if you see the size of them and the type, you could say where they come from. Yes, and you go back and you see they come a lot from NPA, with NPA origins. Now, one of the latest one, NPA, I don't remember, Holden is used quite a lot. And I see a lot of Tervuns out of him, but with the type of Holden. And Holden is, I think, a great grandson of Bichot, also Jos Malinois, son of Stoned. And you see the type. You see, when I see them right away, I know, I go at this, yes, it's that, okay. Harry Grön was there, and Tarmo, and we come in the classroom, and I said, hey, I come, but I don't come alone, because now the way we train, I have Julien, who did the competitions with Turcodos.
Yes.
And here, the bolster, they will come, yeah, okay, Johan, yeah, because they were expecting 40 or 50 people on the seminar. So we go there in the first morning, and it's Geert who take the word. I said, I'm here just to help, and I let Geert do, because that's the way how we do it now. And Geert started to explain everything about the clicker training. And at noon, it was a big group, I say maybe 40, 50 people. And a lot of women, but all different kind of sports. Right? There were ladies doing doggy dance and agility, and there was a group of IGP. And at noon, the whole group of IGP, Johan, we invited you not to have this shit. We want to train like Mario is training with stone, a very hard way. I said, yeah, but that we don't do anymore. That's the past.
Things have changed.
That's history. because now Mario is. That was the moment that he was starting with Jagus, and I said, "No, Mario now is training with Jagus, and we do the clicker training." So for a couple of days, they refused to follow the seminar.
They don't believe.
They don't. They did believe in it. They said, "No, this is for circus dogs and this and that." But at the end, we could show some things that they started little by little coming back to us. Tarmo, he followed because he came to train with us in Ghent. So, but it was strange. And then we see later on how everything changed, and more people started to train this way. And okay, so now coming back to the detection. When I started with the detection, I said I met my friend Joseph, who was in the army, and in 2008, when we started up the company with him, I was involved in the company. He asked me, I was part of 40% in his company, and the way of training that was done like they did in the French army. Was hiding the explosive, but putting the explosive before the ball or the reward, and they teach the dog to search the reward, and they learned
the association eventually,
the sense and the association, like you say. Now we don't do that anymore. We are completely changed. I must say I have studied quite a lot about how we can train in the operant conditioning, and that you know very well. And by doing that, and you do it correctly, it's rare we need to punish. And like you already mentioned, if you say then, they say, oh shit, we did something wrong. And they correct themselves because they so much, they go so much for this reward that they want. And they have to work to get the reward. They don't have to find the reward. That's a very big thing.
Right.
We say if we teach a puppy now for an explosive, well, we start at 8 weeks. Well, when the puppy is 10 weeks, I can show you little videos, puppies of 10 weeks that is doing the job of an adult dog of 1 year, 1.5 year old. And they have a perfect indication, and they thought, of course, they're not ready to work in reality.
But they show understanding already.
But exactly. Right? They understand what they should do. And they never had to search for the reward, because the reward, we give the food and we drop the food. And it's incredible the results that we get with that. So that's changed a lot. But we see, if I check here in Europe, I don't speak in other countries. Norway, they are very high level already. And I had some contacts with Rune Fjellanger, who wrote books in the 90s about the rest method in Africa, where for a convention in Geneva, where also Stuart Hilliard wrote quite a chapter about dog training. So they are really, really strong in detection, just like NPA in Bosnia, but they are coming Norway, it's all the same thing. Yeah? And but for the rest in Europe, I see a lot, they still train like it was done in the 80s and the 90s, and that's difficult. That's difficult.
Do you, how old, when do you, like if you have it in an ideal situation, when would you start to,
we start at 8 weeks.
When they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Like if it's explosive, like do you do pseudo? Do you do cocktails? Like what is your basic strategy? I don't want you to give away any of the secrets, but just curious.
There are no secrets. There are no secrets. If we start with an odor. Normally we start with a neutral odor. So with a neutral odor there, I mean we make like a kind of oil by mixing some different things together that we know if he finds this is something that you will never find in real life. So, but by using a neutral oil, even if something goes wrong, the dog will never associate it with the odor that he has to find later in his career. If you start, okay, you say we need a drug detection dog, we start to search on heroin, or we start to search on TNT, and something goes wrong in the training, you have never to be afraid that later in his career, when he finds this TNT or this heroin or cocaine, he will never think about, hey, I was punished.
The backlash of
exactly.
Yeah.
But I say punished, not even punished, because something can go wrong, that when he's searching, something is falling, and on him that he's surprised.
Even some level of confusion that it wasn't resolved in their head, right?
Exactly. So, and then when we see he starts to recognize the odor, we make it immediately, every time, every 3 times, after 2-3 rewards, we make it more difficult. We make it more difficult, we make it more difficult. And that's the thing that I see in the training, that people don't do enough. We explain something, we say, hey, you should train that. And we say, for example, we train the dog, for example, to go on a spot on the ground, on a little wooden plank.
Yeah,
and we say,
I was just going to ask about it.
We do that. So we say to people, we show, and then you do it for a week. But for a week, they will do, on the moment the dog put 1 foot on the object, they are happy and they reward.
Yeah.
And then they come after 1 week and we say, hey, but he's not sitting on, no, but we rewarded only on putting, yeah, but if you put only this, now it will be difficult, because you made it so strong for him that when he put his feet or 1 foot on the planche, on the object, he will be rewarded. If you do 3 times and you stop rewarding, he will say, hey, why I don't get my reward?
Yes.
And he will look to go further on. He will put his second one.
Yes. That's what in psychology, that's the extinction burst of, and that's exactly how it works.
Exactly. And I must say, I did this demonstration one day in the 90s, right? And I had a puppy. I trained him already on sitting next to me or sitting in front of me. Reward him with clicker. He knew the clicker, let's say like that. And he was sitting. And I'm in the club and we are discussing about, they say, yeah, but Johan, your technique, it takes much too long, and this and that, and it's no, and if we do sit, we push him on the ground and he's sitting immediately, and we see in 2 seconds he's sitting. Yeah, but he don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we see, and from you, it takes 10 minutes before he sit the first time, but they don't understand that the second time mine is exactly.
Allow the dog to think instead of just,
Yes. And I see now, like the type of dogs that we breed, they're so fucking intelligent. If you do something 3 times and you don't make it more difficult, they lose interest.
Yes.
They don't want to work anymore.
Yes. That's very true.
And that is difficult. That is difficult in the training. We have much more problems to train the handler.
Just to keep that momentum, so the dog has enthusiasm to keep him involved instead of reaching this level. Oh, I know this is, and eventually it becomes disinteresting, and now you have to try to create motivation, and that should not be happening to begin with, right?
No, exactly.
Tell me, this is the in detection, the ongoing question always. Do you, after indication, do you throw something at the resource, or do you release and the dog goes back?
It depends. It depends.
Okay.
It depends on what we work.
Okay.
Right? Because in the start we don't even use the clicker when we start, because when we teach him the clicker first of all, but when we start on that, we throw the food, and we start the searching on the wall or whatever, and when we throw, for me, by throwing and the tick that gives my piece of food against the wall is, in a matter of fact, replacing my clicker.
True.
The sound, right? The dog here, oh, tick, it's there.
Time.
And then he gets away from his indication. If we use the clicker, we see the dog goes too much, click, and we check, we say, hey, I will get it. And now the noise is there, and the food is also immediately there. And you know, tick, I can take. Right? That's the thing that we use.
So that means you probably use like a kibble, like the dog food or something hard treat, right?
We use dog food.
Yeah.
We use canning or proplan or whatever. The hard things that they eat. Yeah. That's, and I can say we have very, 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 very good results with it.
Do you have any preference, male or female? Do you find any interesting differences or no?
I don't have really a preference because with both we see we have good results.
Yeah, I would be the same way, but knowing just the military and police industry, a lot of times it has to be a male, like it's a thing, and there shouldn't be a difference, because especially for detection, I mean, if we're talking some protection work, sure, some females just don't have that power, but for detection there shouldn't be any concern of male or female, right?
I always say I prefer a good female than a bad male.
Right. Speaking of females, let's go back to breeding again, because like, again, way back when I was in Bulgaria, and we were, I started with the whole Russian style military training, and the selection was very interesting. Then when I was in Belgium, I started to hang out with Luke a little bit more, and few other people. Something very interesting happened that changed my mind, that if female has really, she can do really good protection, of course it's very good, but for breeding purposes it's not like a necessary thing. It's more important that it's a mother and that carries the genetics than herself have that strong protection like Elgos or something.
Yeah, yes, but we see it also in the breeding, in the history of the breeding. Most of the females that were used for breeding, they were never trained.
Just very good character dogs, but
they because most of the time they breed. I talk about good breeders like Luke. When he was taking a female for breeding, they did maybe some biting and something, but they were not really trained.
Right.
And they kept them at home, and that's how it was. Now we see that more and more people start to compete also, but it's not the training and the result of the training that will have a decision on the genetics.
Right.
And people say, hey, we will breed with the world champion. Is he the best dog? He's a good dog, that's for sure. But is he the best dog for breeding? He is lucky. He has a very, very good trainer.
Very true.
And some dogs, even dogs that never came to championships, that were extremely good for breeding, but people say, no, hey, why you use that? He was never in competition. No, but I had an example. I had a dog, he had 3-4 handlers, and nobody could handle him.
Right.
And I use him for breeding. Say, hey, why you use him? Because he's a super dog. And sometimes people look too much to the results.
Well, because when you don't have the experience that like you and I have for just understanding then you start to rely on competitions and who is the champion today. And it's a very common thing for somebody that starts to do breeding, is the relying on championship scores to make a decision which dog is good and which dog is not. And it's such a illusion.
Yes, yeah, because you see it also in horse breeding. If you see in horse breeding and jumping, the foals that are sold best, that are the ones from where the mother is jumping 160 and the father is jumping 160. Right?
Yeah, but we'll get to the horses in a moment. I'm very curious about this because this is a whole different direction you're taking off in. I want to go to what's happening with Belgian ring right now. How is it still maintaining some popularity and interest? Is it like what's happening in Belgium with the dogs, with the Belgian ring specifically? I mean, is it the old guys, or are there any new kids that are showing interest?
I must say, it's a problem.
Yeah.
For me, it's a problem because we see that the number of dog sporters in ring sport, it's going down, and it's going fast now. Like if we see that last year on the FMBB championships, for the 3 championships together, they had 30 dogs. Wow. Wow. It's nothing.
Wow.
When we say 20 years ago, you had the 3 categories. In every category, you had 20 dogs, and you had to fight to get in the championship.
Spot, yes.
Now there's not one championship that is full. And also in the Belgium ring, Saint-Hubert, it's a bit, now the Saint-Hubert has taken a little bit again, a little bit up than maybe 10 years ago, because then it was very bad also. But the problem for me is that they don't want to adapt their methods, the way how they are training. And I am very, very sorry to say, but they are killing our sport by training all still the same way as they did 20 years ago. And they don't want to change. And the result is now with the animal welfare, when they come on that, it's a big problem. And I'm talking about that already very long, because also when I was doing the seminar in the late 90s in Finland, I said, yeah, but the way you want us to train, the way how Mario trained with stones, if we keep on going that, the government will make laws and they will supreme our sport, what is already happening in some Nordic countries.
But you would think that, let's say, some young kid starts to train and trains more in an intelligent way and becomes successful. Success always leaves these clues of, well, how did that happen? And then people would start paying attention. Do you think the phones start to have like everybody's like on social media and nobody really spends time outside, play with dogs and have fun with dogs, like the younger generation? That's where I'm like, I know like, let's say IGP, and not just IGP, but even Mondial Ring in Eastern Europe seems to be, and in the States, I have to say also, they're young people that are interested.
Yes.
But how do we get young people interested today?
Well, I must say I'm quite surprised, because the young people, I think they have an intention to be interested in dogs and dog sports. Because every year now we go to schools because we want to recruit security agents for our company. And like my company name is Canine Detection, we give a little demonstration, and we see that these young kids from, let's say, 18, 19, 20 years old, we have the most success with the demonstrations that we do and the way how we talk about the security and the security we do with the dogs. Because the security that we do with the dogs, like searching for explosives on the airports, or searching like we do in Zeebrugge, in the harbor, searching the illegal migrants that want to go to England, that we search in the trucks, and where we find nearly every day people. So that is very rewarding and it's fun working like that.
Yeah.
And we see that these young kids, they are really interested. The only thing what we don't have is enough people that can give quality training.
Teachers.
Yes, that's what we miss. And it's there, in my opinion, that we lose quite a lot of young kids if they go to ring sport. And it's one of my generation that will teach the young kids. And he's teaching the kid the way how they were training 30, 40 years ago. The kids lose interest. It's normal.
Yeah. No, I mean, even when you and I think about certain things, that how training was done back then, and you don't know better, but somehow you know that that's not right. You just don't know any better way. Now we know better ways, you know?
Yes, exactly. And it's difficult because if you want to convince people to go to this way of training, they laugh with you, they laugh you away. And if you show them, then they turn their back and they don't want to talk to you anymore.
Right. Yeah, this is the dog world.
Yes.
That is the dog world. It's such a big shitty problem. Like we cannot agree on everything. We have to have disagreements, but we have to be able to get back after disagreement, you know, instead of being this forever wars. It's just not good for anybody. But
I must say, I need to go now.
I get it. This was already a very beautiful conversation, my friend. I'm super happy.
But
I wanted
we can go on, not tomorrow or the weekend, but next week we can go on with something.
Sure, we can do part 2. I think it will be interesting for people. These are very interesting conversations, you know? No.
Because you hear that I'm very enthusiastic about talking, but this weekend I have a monitoring competition, and I need to go to the Club of Valère to pick up my things tonight.
Very cool.
And I need to go.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you. So we need to talk about what I want to do when we do part 2. I really want to talk about monitoring a little bit more in depth as far as where the direction of monitoring is going, and the rules and everything, and also FMBB, of course, and things like that. But this was super cool. So I very much appreciate it. And
I enjoyed it.
We talk again, my friend.
Yeah, okay. And I have my friend Philip. He asked also to have a podcast with you.
Let's just send me. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's also a guy from the monitoring, and he was he's Belgium guy. He lived in Portugal for quite some years, maybe 10, 12 years, because he was married there. There he did dog sport. He was world champion monitoring for Portugal, but now he moved back to Belgium and he came to work for me. And when he heard I was talking to him, he said, hey, please ask. I want to have a podcast with you also.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tot ziens.
Hey, let me know. Let me know when we can go on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man.
Okay. And then I take care that I keep the whole evening free.
Yeah, no problem. I'm the same way. Perfect, okay. Johan. Thank you.